Miss Babs has asked me to create a video showing you how to place the beads on your eternity shawl for those of you who have never done beading before. There's two main methods of doing beads. The first is to string all of the beads on your yarn before you even cast on, all 1,300 of them. As you can imagine, that might be a little bit tedious, so I'm not even going to discuss that method. The second method is to use a very small crochet hook to place one bead at a time as you come to it in your directions. This is my crochet hook that I use for beading. As you can see, it's bent from years of much use. It should be straight. It has a tiny hook on the bottom, and most importantly, it fits through the bead. So if I were actually going to use the crochet method, I would pick up the bead onto the crochet hook, and I would hook the crochet hook through the stitch where I wanted to place the bead, pull it down so that the yarn is hooked around the hook on the crochet hook, and then slide the bead onto the stitch. Put the stitch back on the left needle and then knit as per the directions. But luckily, through the generosity of Miss Babs, we have a hybrid version of those two methods called the Flegel beater. I will pause now where you try to repeat that 3 times fast. Okay, this is the Flegel beater. One end has a stopper on it, actually 2 stoppers, but you only need one. One of them is a spare. And it's this end with the crooked point that you use to load all your beads onto the shaft. The other end is similar to a crochet hook. You take off the guard on the end, and you'll see that this is instead of a hook like a crochet hook, it has a notch. And this is where you're going to hook the stitch and slide the bead over it. So when we come to the directions that require a stitch, we put our Flegel beater through the stitch, slide the yarn down to the notch, and slide the bead over the stitch, put the stitch back on the left needle, and then knit the stitch. Let me do that again. We'll hook the stitch through the Flegel beater, slide the yarn into the notch, push the bead over the end, put the stitch back on the left needle, and knit it. And there's our beads. In the directions, the beads start on chart D. Everywhere where there's a green square is where a stitch should be, whether you're reading the chart or the written directions. Every little green square means to place a bead.